My name is Mitch Tischer. I'm a regional sales manager out west for Hubble Water Heaters, focusing mainly in the food equipment market. I office remotely in Northwest Arkansas. Again, it's a great day. The sun is out. The weather's great. Spring's around the corner. And time change is coming up soon. So we're on our way, folks. Thanks for joining. I want to share with you first just a little bit about myself. I have an extensive background in cleaning and sanitation. I have worked with water in some capacity my entire professional career. For 12 years, I designed systems and cleaning systems and protocols for facilities in many different industries where cleanliness is highly valued. So not only the systems, but the protocols. I worked with end users on designing these systems. I've worked with architects, engineers, consultants, touching base, making recommendations on how to achieve optimal results. So a lot of what I'm talking about today has to do with that. But also I spent a lot of time, or not a short amount of time, with a company out of Canada. And what I did there was I handled distribution for the leading disinfectant in the animal care market. And I bring that up because what that experience gave me was an experience into chemistry and how chemistry plays a role in sanitation. So I've worked with water, with chemicals, and now I'm here at Hubble Water Heaters, again working with water, but on the next level. Continuing my education in sanitation, learning different water heating applications, and the role that hot water plays in achieving optimal results. So needless to say, I'm qualified to be delivering the message today on HydraWash. And again, thanks for joining us. So let's roll into the next slide. Who is Hubble? Well, Hubble, we've been in business for over 100 years, 101 to be exact. And our sole focus is water heating and different water heating applications. And since that's our focus, it allows us to continually innovate, developing new water heating solutions in all major heating markets, not just food service. We work in commercial, industrial, with the government. We're the largest supplier to the US Navy, which has opened doors for us in the marine sector and special purpose applications. And of course, like I mentioned, we're here in food service. We've been in food service since 1954, selling booster heaters, but not only booster heaters, we have a plethora. I like that word, plethora. We have a plethora of products that are solely designed to serve the needs in a kitchen. So besides a booster heater that goes in front of a dishwasher, we do sink sanitizers, bain-maries, rethermalizers, point of use applications at hand sinks, and also tankless water heating applications. So we do a lot. That's our focus. We consistently hold between 95 and 100% YRG ratings with the government for quality, performance, cost, customer service. And in 2010, Bath and Iron Works nominated Hubble for the Subcontractor of the Year. And that was big for us. They're a big dog in that industry, and for us to get that accolade was pretty impressive, and we're proud of it. So that's why I mentioned it. But because of that, and because of that nomination, they understand, and we understand, quality management is important to us. We meet all the requirements of ISO 9001. We're a 2015 certified facility. And again, with all these accolades, it validates our commitment to 100% customer satisfaction. So again, why are we here today? We're here today to discuss a new product, which meets a need in an emerging market, cleaning and sanitation. Speaking specifically to the food service industry now, I've had a chance to review many pre-pandemic customer dining polls, and a lack of cleanliness consistently ranks as a top 5 irritant to the overall dining experience, which tells me a need for clean will constantly be relevant. There's always going to be a need for clean. But now that we've lived through this COVID nightmare, excuse my language, COVID, being prepared with the right cleaning and sanitation equipment is more crucial than ever before. therefore has dramatically increased the value of cleanliness and sanitation. So, you know, some states are actually just now beginning to open up again and beginning to dine inside again. And I cannot imagine cleanliness and sanitation not being the utmost focus or highest priority as business begins to return. Because right now, an opportunity is there to capitalize on with real results, okay? So what kind of cleaning equipment is out there? Well, there's cleaning equipment for every kind of mess, right? But so many of the tools to accomplish the goal of cleaning fail or don't work. For example, floor cleaning. What is the goal? The goal is to provide a clean, safe floor, right? Well, why don't we have effectiveness ratings for the tools we use then? Why is that left untouched? I mean, so many other pieces of equipment that we use have these kinds of ratings. So my personal belief is that we have a tendency to rely too strongly on the chemical and not the right tool to get the job done. So what has our industry done to evolve? Well, we've adopted sanitation applications from other industries. UV light emerges in the kitchen from the healthcare world. Foggers and electrostatic sprayers are being introduced because of their success in health and fitness sectors. Air purification systems have crossed over from the commercial, residential, and healthcare industries. And by this, I mean the HVAC systems that introduce UV light. So as those systems pull the air in before it's redistributed out into the building, they're kind of sanitizing, cleaning the air before it's redistributed back into the building. There's also portable machines now that use UV light or ozone. They're being adopted to meet smaller spaces like dining rooms. How about this one? So just the other day, I jumped in an Uber, and on the dash of that Uber was a little machine with a glowing light. And I was like, what the heck is that? It was pointing at the driver, of course, but he said, oh, it's a air cleaner, air sanitizer. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And believe it or not, I felt a little bit safer in that confined area. I could have rolled the window down, but it was like 32 degrees out. So what did I do? I was impressed. I felt safer. I gave the guy a 5-star rating. I told all my friends about the experience, and I saved the driver as a local favorite. So isn't that kind of what we're after in a larger scale here in food service with restaurants? Aren't we trying to capture that same experience? Well, who knows how far this is going to go? But the key takeaway here is disinfection. All of these products that you see on this slide are focusing on disinfection, which is a step in the right direction, especially with the airborne pathogens. But as we dive deeper into the process of surface sanitation, cleaning is still the most important first step. And the CDC reiterates the same message. Surfaces must be cleaned, free from germs, dirt, and other impurities before the next steps are taken in the sanitation process. And they go on to say, essentially, if you do a good job of cleaning, then you will have removed 99% of harmful pathogens, and that sanitizing and disinfection are insurance policies, but they're also, of course, recommended in follow-up. So the key takeaway here is a few things. You cannot sanitize or disinfect dirt, grease, debris. Not possible. Sanitizers are used on surfaces that come in contact with food, generally. Disinfectants are used on surfaces that do not contact food, and they're typically used on floors, toilets, sinks, bathrooms, drains. And disinfectants carry a much greater efficacy rate or kill rate than a sanitizer will. But you know, science and chemistry is changing and evolving also, and disinfectants are becoming green. And they now have lower use dilution ratios and labeling for use as a sanitizer if needed. So I only know of a few products that are truly one-step disinfectant cleaners, and I can share those with you later. But I bring all this up because it's important information to understand as we begin to make recommendations in the cleaning process. Speaking of the cleaning process, center circle. Center circle was invented in 1959 by Dr. Herbert Sinner. He worked for a German company, Henkel. You may have heard of them. They're known for the brands, Persil laundry detergent, Foss soap. But Mr. Sinner originally used his circle for washing clothes. But nowadays, it's been adopted and it's used much more widely, pretty much with everything and anything that needs to be cleaned. So not surprisingly, both a dishwasher and a cleaning system use this tool to determine effectiveness and efficiency. So what is this tool? This tool applies those 4 action variables: temperature, chemical action, mechanical force, and time. They're applied in a certain ratio to identify optimal performance. This formula states that if any one of these variables decrease or shrink, that loss must be compensated for by increasing one or more of the other variables, and vice versa. If they increase, the others shrink. So let's roll through a quick example. And here we are comparing manual dishwashing versus a dish machine. I use this example because it makes sense. And it's kind of where Hubbell has staked its claim in food service as a booster heater, providing constant, reliable temperatures to the dish machine. So when washing dishes manually, prepare to use a lot of mechanical force. That's number 3 on the pie chart. And since we are working with our hands, we're going to require lower water temperatures so that we don't burn ourselves. And that's number 2 on the chart. The chemical action is a standard detergent, Dawn dish soap. It's number 1 on the chart. And then lastly, number 4 is time. And it appears that, the process happens rather quickly, which doesn't surprise me. No one likes to do dishes, but time may also be dependent on the size of the dish load, how many steps were implemented in the process, was there a pre-soak, for how long, yada, yada, yada. Conversely, with a dish machine will provide equal to greater results while decreasing mechanical force or the scrubbing action. So that one shrinks. Therefore, increasing one or more of the other factors, which in this instance are time and temperature. Essentially, what it says is to scrub less, to use less effort, you're going to have to increase water temp and time. But cycle time of the machine is really the time. And again, it goes back to the size of the dish load. And if you were comparing one dish versus one dish, so there's variables there with time, and I'll cover those in a little bit. But you can see the example. It's very clear cut. So where am I going with this? Well, now for basically the unicorn, or shall I call it three-headed serpent, HydraWash. Let's take that same concept to floor cleaning. What HydraWash is going to provide is a perfectly blended, perfectly blends all 4 of those action variables, just like a dishwasher does. And I'll often refer to this equipment as a floor washer. It makes sense, right? So comparing HydraWash to archaic cleaning tools like the mop and bucket or garden hose and scrub brush is just not fair, and it would look very similar to the previous example that I rolled through. So here's what we need to know. Remember, HydraWash does not sacrifice any action variables. They all stay consistently strong to optimize performance. And here's our formula. We're going to take 140-degree water temperature to accelerate the activation of the ingredients and detergents and degreasers, therefore speeding up the removal of soil from the load, in particular, grease and fat, around fryers and, anywhere on the kitchen floor, you can find those areas. But even if you didn't use chemical and you just used hot water as a pre-soap versus cold water, you're going to get better results. So when you use the hot water with the chemical, you're going to have fantastic results. And then also high temperature can also positively affect chemistry by reducing contact times, dwell times. What else? Well, the mechanical force. We're going to use high pressure. We're going to use 1300 PSI to ensure that the soil is effectively removed from the surface and the pores of the floor safely. There's not a brush with fine enough bristles that will outperform 1300 PSI. It's not possible. If you find that brush, please share. But again, 1300 PSI is perfect, it's safe, and it does one heck of a job. Chemistry. HydraWash is going to precisely meter and apply chemistry to the cleaning surface. It takes human error out of the equation when measuring and diluting by hand. So that chug, 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 more is better concept, gone. Also, you might consider ditching if you're currently using a really aggressive chemical because you don't trust the staff to scrub hard, or maybe you just want to rely on the chemical. Well, with the introduction of hot water and pressure, maybe you can move to a safer, less aggressive, more environmentally friendly chemical since we're adding those other variables. So something to consider. And then time. HydraWash is super fast. It's going to speed up the cleaning process, as well as the potential to eliminate steps in the cleaning process, which is, who wouldn't want that? I mean, no one likes to clean. You want to do it as fast as possible. And HydraWash will allow you to do that because there's no setup time. There's no tear down time involved to do the job. It's wall mounted in the cleaning zone, eliminating the potential for cross contamination. It's right there looking at you every day. And the effort it takes to walk over there and turn it on, energize it by the flip of a switch and pull the hose and go, that's really all there is to it. So again, super fast, and I'm going to show you results and talk about those things here in just a minute. So those 4 things, that's our formula for success. They're all perfectly blended. So that's the moral of the story. Again, perfectly blending those per the center circle. And when your livelihood, for everyone kind of reviewing this, if your livelihood depended on cleanliness and gaining loyal customers, repeat customers, then why would you even think about risking poor results at this point in time? Because first impressions matter. And if your floor is portraying a negative impression, then it's going to be an uphill battle to retain those customers that come through your door. Because let me tell you, cleanliness is a direct reflection of operations, how much you care, and the food that is served. And polls and everything tells us that. And how do I know this personally though? And how would you know? Because you're going to use your 5 senses. You're going to use your senses. Those 5 senses engage with the floor by default, creating a nearly unavoidable focal point when deciphering between what's clean and what's not clean. Again, like sight. Do they look dirty or do they look clean? Smell. Do they stink? Why do you think chemical companies put fragrance in their chemical? To mask the odor. I mean, if you were to, when you go to the hospital, you don't smell tropical breeze or pine sol. What you smell is either nothing or a slight odor of a alcohol-based or hydrogen peroxide-based disinfectant. There is no odor. If you want odor, put a wall plug in. So again, that's just soap that remains on the floor. Sound, can you hear them? Are they sticky? Can you feel them? Are they slippery? Do you feel like you're on ice? So all of those things are going to happen whether you want them to or not. So again, floor cleaning is that important. And it's one of the biggest factors when deciphering cleanliness. So what causes the slippery floor? The mop, mop and bucket, Mr. Mop and Bucket right there. That's a cool picture. The mop adds layer upon layer of soap to the floor. And soap, as we know, loves to collect anything it can, dirt, grease, viruses, bacteria. So really what the National Safety Council recommends is that the need to rinse the soap clean from the floor and down the drain is very important. And they recommend that so that we don't have slip and fall accidents and so that you don't have negative impressions regarding cleanliness. Soap is the biggest culprit and it needs to be rinsed down the drain. You know, I can sit here or stand here today and preach about how a mop and bucket doesn't work, but we already know that. Really, it's not groundbreaking news. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that you're just dipping and spreading, dipping and spreading. It's a repeat process of cross-contamination and exercise. It's a total waste of time. Well, the flooring companies realized that the mop and bucket is not being forced out of the industry, so they're being progressive and proactive. They're creating flooring that is slip resistant now with built-in grit and high friction coefficient. But if a mop can't clean, you know, a regular quarry tile floor, then it sure will not be able to clean a floor with texture. But you know who can and who will? HydraWash will. There she is. Isn't she pretty? Or he? That's our standard package. That is our standard package, and it's fully customizable. It's in auto quotes. You can customize it via the configurator. What we did is we're going to allow you to subtract rather than build. So rather than building a bike, you're just going to take off the bells and whistles, the horns, anything you don't want with the system. So it's going to come standard with the industrial pump, the JTX water heater, 36-inch spray wand, the floor scrubber, 50 feet of hose, and I'll dive into those components here in just a minute. But that is the system, and we're pretty proud of it. I'd like to just pause on this slide always. All right, moving on. So let me begin with the first part, the first process of HydraWash, and that's the JTX 18-3. It's a tankless water heater. And the purpose of it is it's there so you never run out of hot water. We understand that a lot of times water is being pulled from great distances, from other areas of the building. And also might be the water might be pulled right from the kitchen water heater. But the other pieces of the equipment need hot water too. So we don't want our machine to be dependent on that source. We're going to provide it right there for the machine every time. So just like a booster heater for a dish machine, the JTX serves that purpose and is going to provide consistent and constant temps to HydraWash. And what's cool is the temperature control. I mean, I think we're the first one to bring a temperature controlled, more or less pressure washer into the market. And that's pretty cool. You can dial it digitally right there via the digital display in 1 degree increments, which really gives you flexibility to customize the process or customize the application of your chemical depending on what the chemical calls for. Maybe it likes to be distributed at 130 degrees. Well, you just go over there and dial it down, but to 130. Maybe it likes 120. Great. But you have the ability to max this thing at 140 as we speak. And the machine's wall mounted. So we're not taking up any additional floor space in that nice, beautiful stainless steel jacket right next to the pressure washer. And it's going to heat the incoming water on demand using the 18 kilowatts and 3 heating element right there. That model we're looking at provides a 30-degree temperature rise. So if you have a 110 line coming down the wall, you can confidently hook up to it and know that it's going to produce 140. Excuse me, need a drink. Now, key note here is sizing charts are available. You might not have a 110 line. You might only have a 70-degree water coming down the wall. So rather than opening up the ceiling or having a plumber come out and reroute hot water in retrofitting applications, just know that we have the ability, using a different model, same concept, but we have the ability to size it correctly to get from 70 to 140. Okay, so just contact the factory in those instances. The next slide, these are going to be our electrical configurations. So just like the booster heater and the way we configure electricals right now, we're going to offer the machine in 208 single phase, 208 three phase, 240 single, 243, and 483. Amp draws are over there on the right. I would, if 3 phases available, it's ideal. I think that's what we're going to, as we make a spec, and we have a written spec and we're working on the drawings. Most of that stuff is live on auto quotes, but we do have 15 different configurations, and I'll cover that in a minute. So the drawings are taking a little bit of time, but we are going to kind of make our recommendation on the most efficient combination and release that and kind of go with that for new construction and things like that. Now for the hot water system, or the industrial pressure washer. So the JTX heats the water and then sends it directly to the industrial pressure washer, which is built to last. And it's built to receive constant hot water temperatures. This machine is going to be available, as you see, in 120, 208, and 240, but only in single phase. Now, don't get me wrong, this machine is as solid as a rock. It's not a home use item that's going to fail after 200 years, or after 200 hours of use. You can get those kinds of machines at Walmart and Home Depot. This is a machine that we consider something that you could run every day, hours upon hours, and confidently maintain it to where it's going to last 10, 12, maybe even 15 years with the right maintenance, preventative maintenance and care. So it's a high quality machine. It's going to use that 2 horsepower Baldor motor, top of the line general pump. When you combine those two, you have optimal pressure and flow, 1300 PSI at 2.1 gallons per minute. And it's quiet, it runs quiet. We just did a test the other day standing underneath it, 82 decibels. So it's not a noisy machine. You can, put this in a kitchen and it's not going to annoy the heck out of you when you're using it. It comes with an adjustable chemical injector, a manual rewind hose reel, 50 feet of hose, steel braided, non-marking, and you can upgrade that from 50 to 75 or even up to 100. You'll have quick coupler sets to allow you for plug and play with the accessories. And again, it's going to include the 36-inch spray wand and the floor scrubber. So real quick, that is basically the complete machine. Beauty. Something to know about a pressure washer, the unloader. It's a key component. Never adjust it, never mess with the unloader. It's got 2 functions. One is to, when you release the gun, it traps the pressure, sends it in the bypass, recirculating that water until you squeeze the trigger again and that water is released, okay? The second function is, if you tighten down that nut, lowering that spring, it's gonna increase the pressure. So I'm telling you again to, end users that are out there listening, If you purchase one, you'll never want to mess with the unloader, because if you do, it'll put added stress on the pump and the motor, and it's going to void the warranty. Ooh. So never mess with the unloader. But I wanted you to know its functionality because it's a key part. The second slide I want to cover too about the pressure washer is the safety features. We've got some safety features built in. We've got a low water shutoff. So if there's not water going to the machine and you energize it, it won't work. It'll shut itself off if, for whatever reason, if water stops flowing to it. High temperature switch. So if the JTX is, for some reason, happens to provide hotter water, it'll, shut itself off to protect itself. We've got backflow prevention built in with the 1-inch air gap in the float tank. It works just like a toilet, so it eliminates the need for a Watts valve. So all these features are part of our ETL certification, which is listed to 1776 standards. The spray wand, which is included, is a dual nozzle spray wand. It's going to incorporate 2 nozzles. One is for high pressure, one is for low pressure. They're both going to be seated in that housing, that steel housing that you see, and in that housing is a ball bearing. So the way you're going to select your pressure is by laying it on its side. That ball bearing will drop into the unwanted selection, and when you pull the trigger, it locks in your selection. Okay, so to get the other selection, and I forget if high is on the left or the right, but to get the other selection, you would just lay it on its other side, let